For your viewing pleasure, this broadcast of the Municipal Council meeting of Alpena is made possible by the funding provided by the City of Alpena. Thank you for your generosity.
Good evening and welcome to the Alpena City Council meeting of June 3rd, 2019. Call the order, please.
Hess? Here. Johnson?
Here.
Nielsen?
Here.
Nowak?
Here.
And Walgora.
Here. Let's rise for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, any modifications to the agenda this evening?
On the closed session, we need to add on the closed session, discuss labor negotiations and a tax appeal. Is that enough, Bill?
Yes.
That one?
And what? A
Tax appeal.
I move we add the tax appeal to closed session.
Second.
Hess? Yes. Johnson?
Yes.
Nielsen?
Yes.
Nowak?
Yes.
And Walgora.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Any other modifications? Approval of the minutes for regular and closed sessions of May 20, 2019. Any issues, changes? Citizens appearing before council on agenda and non-agenda items are allowed 5 minutes each to address your concerns. This is the only time during this evening's meeting that you're allowed to address council. So if you'd like to do so, please come to the podium and state your name and address for our records. Yes? No?
I mean, I start with the liquor license now.
Sure.
Okay. Hi, so as you know, Erin Gentry with the DDA. I just wanted to address and say, if there's any questions about the liquor license. I've been helping Thunder Bay Theater with the application. As you know, there's special licensing through the Liquor Control Commission for downtown properties. If they fit specific requirements, you've probably seen some of these come before you, but we just want to make the request again, since one of the necessary components of the application is that we have a recommendation from the governing body that is approved and that you're okay with releasing an additional liquor license. So yeah, if you have any questions about how these liquor licenses work, please let me know, but thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ann. And no one else. I can't even talk, I'm sorry. Excuse me. The consent agenda this evening is A, bills to be allowed in the amount of $193,815.99, and B is fiscal year 1920 budget amendment request for the major and local street funds.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Excuse me. Johnson?
Yes.
Nielsen?
Yes.
Nowak?
Yes.
Walgora.
Aye.
And Hess?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next up, announcements. Meeting of the Alpena County Intergovernmental Council will take place at 7 p.m. on Thursday, June 6, 2019 at the Wilson Township Hall located at 3746 Kings Settlement Road. I don't recall what the topic is. Does anyone?
Headley Amendment.
Oh,
Yeah, it
Headley
has to do,
Amendment.
the head of the equalization department is, I think, making a presentation.
All right, thank you. I have a proclamation this evening for Alpena Blues Week. Whereas the Alpena Blues Coalition was started in November 2003 for the purpose of furthering blues music awareness and appreciation, and whereas the first Alpena Blues Festival was held in 2004 and subsequent successful festivals have been held each year since, and whereas the Blues Coalition provides a program called Blues in the Schools Music Outreach as a way of raising awareness and educating students in traditional American blues music. And whereas events sponsored in the past include blues bands at the Friday Night Downtown Concert Series, blues performers at various venues around town, and fighting hunger in our community. And whereas over the years, successful fundraisers have been held to support and promote awareness of upcoming Alpena Blues festivals, this year's Blues Festival will be held in downtown Alpena. The festival will be held on Saturday, June 22nd, 2019. Now therefore, I, Matthew J. Walagora, by the virtue of authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Alpena, do hereby proclaim the week of June 16th through the 22nd, 2019 as Alpena Blues Week in Alpena, and urge all area citizens to recognize and support the efforts of the Alpena Blues Coalition's 16th Annual Blues Festival. And they don't have a representative here this evening, so I'll catch up with them later. Present that. No public hearing. Next up is report of officers, May 7th, 2019 election update.
Okay. The cost for the May 7th special election totaled $15,752, which will be billed to Alpena Public Schools. The highest expense at $5,785 was to pay the election workers. For the next election, we will be consolidating the precincts temporarily to reduce expenses. And that was what we had passed in the election commission meeting on May 20th. The city had 8,190 registered voters at the time of the election, which is a decrease of 11 voters since the last election. The voter turnout was just under 24%, which equals 1,965 voters. Of that total, 387 were absentee. Some interesting stats are that 1,185 voters in the election were age 60 and older. There were 1,085 females that voted versus 880 males. And the largest group of voters at 634 was comprised of females age 60 and older.
Very good, thank you. And just as just a brief note, the consolidating of those precincts for the temporary election day doesn't change the location of anyone's voting. So they'll still go to the same location, they'll just be in the same room with the other precinct rather than separate rooms, but the buildings will be the same.
Yep, so precincts 4 and 5 that vote at the First United Methodist Church, they're in that big room right next to each other, but they'll just be together now. And just have, you can only have one tabulator in a precinct. And then precincts 3 and 6 vote at St. Anne's Parish Center, and they were in separate rooms, but they'll just be in one room now. So they still go to the same location, basically. So in that case, we don't have to inform the voters, but I might put out a press release. Or it might confuse more people, I don't know.
I don't know,
Think
it's my
about it.
opinion that it would probably confuse more people than
Yeah.
it would.
Okay,
Because they're going to the same place.
Yeah.
And the sign will be up that says where.
right, instead of 3 on one door and 6 on the other, say 3 and 6 on one door.
I don't think it's necessary unless somebody else thinks it is.
No, I don't.
Good deal.
Receipt and file on that, I guess.
I move we receive and file and election results.
Second.
Please. Nielsen?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
Walagora?
Aye.
Hess? And Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next up is the second, I believe, is the second reading of ordinance 19-444, the smoking ban in public parks.
This would generally not be read again unless you wish to hear my voice on it. I think these are the changes that council had directed the last time we were here. So if everybody's comfortable with it, would need a motion and a yes or no vote, or yea or nay.
I move we approve ordinance number 19-444.
Yes, second.
Noack?
Yes.
Walagora?
Aye.
Hess?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
And Nielsen?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you, Bill. New business. A is resolution for redevelopment liquor license for the Thunder Bay Theater. Ann spoke of at the beginning of the meeting. Basically, we're obviously not the deciding factor, the state is, so this would just be basically for us to say that the local government approves of the application,
The recommendation.
the recommendation.
Yep.
Okay. Do you have a resolution number or anything, or is it just a recommendation?
There's no resolution for it.
Okay.
No, I think it says, it is the consensus of this body that we either recommend or do not recommend this application be considered for approval by the Michigan State Control Liquor Control Commission. That's pretty much all it says on the form.
So I move that we approve the recommendation for the Class C liquor license.
Second.
Walagora?
Oh, aye.
Sorry. Hess? Johnson?
Yes.
Nielsen?
Yes.
And Noah?
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you. Where's the
Drinks around the house.
All right, next up, Wilson Street bid recommendation. Rich?
On May 24th, the city received an open bids for the Wilson Street Improvement Project. This project includes upsizing the 6-inch water main to 12-inch along Wilson Street from Johnson Street to approximately 1,400 feet north of the intersection, and widening the intersection to provide a 3-lane left turn section and improved turning movements. Bid documents were sent to various potential bidders, plan rooms, and posted on the City of Alpena webpage. 2 bids received as follows. MacArthur Construction, $477,654. Elmer's Crane and Dozer, $393,346. Rough day.
We'll take the first one.
The city currently has funds budgeted. Right now, we have $120,000 in the current year. We anticipated this project starting after school was out and before, and then continuing and being completed after July 1. So there's $120,000 this year and $275,000 next year. So we have $395,000 budgeted. Spoke with the contractor this morning. They have a tentative start date of July 22nd. So obviously this $120,000 for this year will have to be carried forward to next fiscal year.
Will they be done by the time school starts?
They have a completion date. Project would be starting after school is off on the summer break and prior to the start of the fall to minimize the impact to Besser School. It is my recommendation as city engineer that the city council award the Wilson Street Improvement Project to Elmer's Crane and Dozer for the as-bid unit prices totaling $393,346.
You need it?
I move we approve the Wilson Street project, award to Elmer's Crane and Dozer Incorporated in the amount of $393,346.
Second.
Hess?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Nielsen?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And Walagora?
Aye.
Motion carried.
And Rich for the 2019 return activated sludge pump replacement bid recommendation.
On May 21st, 2019, the city received an open bids for the 2019 RIS Return Activated Sludge Pump Replacement. This project includes the replacement of existing pumps within the water recycling plant which have exceeded their life expectancy. In addition to replacing the existing motor with a high-efficiency motor equipped with variable frequency drives, the VFDs will reduce future operating expenses. These have to be replaced in pairs. There's actually 4 of them there, and we have to replace them in pairs. So that's why we're buying 2 at this point in time. Actually, we're recommending 4. Bid documents were sent to various firms and plan rooms with 6 bids received. Actually, there's 7 bids received as listed below. And those ranged from $24,464 for the 2 pumps to $39,585. Due to the lead time on the pumps, the project will not be able to be completed until after July 1, 2019. Actually, just about every one of the bidders indicated that the lead time on these pumps was out to about November 1st. So we're going to have to extend the completion date on the project, and then again, we'll have to carry this funding forward to next fiscal year. This lead time will also necessitate an extension of the contract time. The time extension request was not unique to Kerr Pump, as several companies requested an extension as part of their bidding process. The proposed pumps and variable speed drives from the low bidder were reviewed by Suez employees and control systems who will integrate the VFDs, and both agree they will integrate into the existing system without issues. Funding has been established in the sewer fund for this project, And we have money budgeted this year and next year for these exact same pumps as part of a multi-year replacement. The price received from Kerr Pump was lower than anticipated. With the funding available in both this fiscal year and next, the replacement of all 4 pumps can be completed at one time. It is my recommendation as city engineer that the project be awarded to Kerr Pumps to supply 4 pumps totaling $48,928 with a delivery date by December 31st, 2019.
Rich, is this something we install ourselves, or the staff over there installs?
Yeah, actually, Suez will be doing the installation. We'll have to get control systems to come in and do the programming and the electricians to do the wiring, but the actual install itself will be done by Suez employees.
And the life expectancy of these pumps?
The other ones are probably 35 to 40 years old, so we expect at least that out of these.
No,
I move the award and return the activated sludge pump project to Kerr Pumps for the 4 pumps totaling $48,928 with a delivery date of 12/31/2019.
Second.
Johnson?
Yes.
Nielsen?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
Walagora?
Aye.
And Hess. Motion carried.
Thank you, Rich. Next is the first reading of ordinance 19445, permit public displays of fireworks.
Good evening, Council, Mayor.
Chief?
In 2012, the state legislature passed the Fireworks Safety Act of 2012. In 2018, they amended several areas of that act and gave local units of government greater opportunity to regulate fireworks use, consumer fireworks use in their communities. But it's a double-edged sword. We can either regulate it the way that they allow us to regulate it, or we can't regulate it at all. So we don't have any choice. If we want to become more stringent, we can do that. And what the law now calls for is many fewer days. It used to be day before and day after any federal holiday. Now there are specific holidays, fewer of them. There's language that talks about burn bans and how that can be handled, under whose criteria, who has the authority to do a burn ban. Because use of fireworks during very dry conditions are an additional hazard, regardless of if it's a permissible day. And lastly, it imposes a civil fine of $1,000 per violation, and there is no other fine or sanction authorized. The judge can't do $500, you can't do $1,500, it is what it is. However, it should be noted that Alpena police and fire officers make every attempt to gain compliance without issuing a citation. Resistant or repeat offenders would be subject to the new penalties. I've had a ticket book in my office for 9 years now and never written one. That's not how we do business. We convince people that it's best to work towards compliance for their own good and for the good of the community. In the case of a very egregious or uncooperative person, obviously we may have to go ahead and do that. Normally we pass that off to the police department, who does an awesome job of it. The primary changes, as I mentioned, were fewer days, specific penalties, and the specific fine. In order for our ordinance to be compliant with the state law, it must be amended. Bill Pfeiffer and I drafted, or he actually drafted with my recommendations, a new ordinance revision. Greg has approved it, and it is attached. This would be the first reading of the new ordinance if that's your choice. Council has the choice of adopting the new revisions to the ordinance, rescinding the ordinance entirely, therefore not regulating fireworks at all in town. But we can't keep our ordinance with the new law. It has to comply. So that's our choices, or your choices.
So just to be clear, if we don't pass this, then the city falls under the state's already enacted laws.
No, if we don't pass it, our ordinance is at odds with the state law. The state law says that you can pass an ordinance, but it must follow this criteria. So our ordinance would essentially be illegal and improper at that time.
Okay. So the other than, I mean, we're obviously very limited on what we can do. We talked about this a little bit.
We can either rescind it and just leave it up to the state, or we could make our ordinance match what the state law requires.
And this, oh, I'm sorry.
Can I just ask if we don't pass it,
Mhm.
and you say it kind of falls to the state. Does that mean locally we cannot enforce anything?
Yes.
It would have to follow the state police or whatever, through
Well,
the state to
The
enforce?
state doesn't have any inspectors out to deal with that. That's why they have inspectors that deal with fireworks sales and so forth, but not the discharge of consumer fireworks. So really, at that point, we give up our enforcement authority and no one enforces it.
Those were my questions.
Yeah.
I don't know. This.
I don't have the questions.
It's-
I've read these and, you know, those are our choices. I think our choices are mine, clear to go with what the state recommendations are. You know, I just know for, you know, my experience and stuff like that, the ordinances that we've put in were pretty successful, I thought. At least, you know, my neighborhood and the walking parks and stuff like that. And I personally witnessed education on some things from the department, so, I think that, you know, I'm fine with this going forward, so I'm fine if we go forward and just count this as a first reading.
I agree.
The state is the state. I was actually fine with the laws that the state had before. I know that they took a lot of flack from a lot of communities, maybe even including ours, I don't know. And so they tightened up the days and the times and basically told us what we can do. So I'm not really even sure why I'm here right now.
Rise back and forth,
Here we are. So,
Very well. This is ordinance number 19-445. It's an ordinance of the City of Alpena, Michigan, amending Chapter 38, Fire Prevention and Protection, Article 1, in general, Section 38.4, Authority of Council to permit public displays of fireworks by amending Section 2, which is a general prohibition on ignition, discharge, and use of consumer fireworks. Section 3, additional prohibitions, and Section 5, enforcement, seizure of fireworks and penalties. Be it ordained by the Municipal Council of the City of Alpena, State of Michigan as follows. Section 38.4, fireworks, A, Section 2 will be amended as follows. No person shall ignite, discharge, or use fireworks within the city at any time except on the following dates after 11 a.m. 1, December 31st until 1 a.m. on January 1st. 2, the Saturday and Sunday immediately preceding Memorial Day until 11:45 p.m. on each of those days. 3, June 29th to July 4th until 11:45 p.m. on each of those days. 4, July 5th, if that date is a Friday or Saturday, until 11:45 p.m. And 5, the Saturday and Sunday immediately preceding Labor Day until 11:45 p.m. on each of those days. Section 3D, no burning restriction pursuant to Michigan compiled laws 29.7D1. If the environmental concerns based on the Department of Natural Resources Fire Division criteria are elevated to extreme fire conditions, or if the environmental concerns based on the Department of Natural Resources Fire Division criteria are elevated to very high for 72 consecutive hours, the commanding officer of the fire department of a city, village, township, or county, in consultation with the Department of Natural Resources, has the authority to enforce a no burning restriction that includes a ban on the ignition, discharge, and use of consumable fireworks within a city. If a no burning restriction is instituted under this subsection, the commanding officer of the fire department enforcing the restriction shall ensure that adequate notice of the restriction is provided to the public. And as to Section 5C, would be amended as follows. Any person who violates this section is guilty of a criminal misdemeanor, which shall be punishable upon conviction thereof by a fine of $1,000 for each violation of the ordinance, and no other fine or sanction. Pursuant to Michigan compiled law 28-457-3, this ordinance directs that $500 of the fine collected be remitted to the local law enforcement agency responsible for its enforcement, and the provisions of this ordinance shall take effect 10 days after being adopted by the municipal council and duly published.
that of course is the first reading, so that'll be back at our next meeting, I would assume.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Chief. And you're still here for the next
And
one.
that's
Council Policy Statement 18, Revision to State Purchasing Program.
Council Policy Statement 18 regulates the procedures to be employed when making purchases or contracts for the city. On page 13 of the policy, it addresses state bid purchases because larger purchases like vehicles, radios, and other technology are often considerably less expensive by leveraging the massive buying power of the state government rather than bidding for one or two items for Alpena alone. Over the past 10 years or so, many if not most units of local government have expanded this to include participation in a number of intergovernmental purchasing programs comprised of local governments, school districts, and the like. By working together, these governments are able to secure more favorable pricing than they could individually. The Michigan Intergovernmental Trade Network, MITN, is one such consortium that includes over 218 local government bodies in Michigan. Other examples, when I wrote this memo, included the Oakland County Purchasing Program, but today they folded into MITN, so it's all part of MITN now. We're asking that one paragraph of our policy be amended under page 13, section 8, state and other intergovernmental cooperative purchasing programs. It uses say just state purchasing program. And then at the tail end of that first paragraph, the city may participate in other intergovernmental cooperative purchasing programs, including but not limited to Michigan Intergovernmental Trade Network, BidNet, and the Oakland County Cooperative Purchasing Program. Any such purchases in the next paragraph need to be approved by the city manager and the city clerk, treasurer, finance director, who will look out obviously for the best needs of the city. But there are a number of things that we procure that we could procure probably less expensively if we joined with other units of government to do that. Now, there is a side benefit that I didn't really write in the memo, but it's probably very important actually, and that is that it costs nothing for the city to become part of MITN. It does cost contractors, but it doesn't cost the cities. But when we put something out to bid, those bids all go on MITN also. And so all of the registered users all over the state will see all of those bids and may want to bid on them, and it may get us some additional bidders possibly, which I know has been an issue in the past. Similarly, if we see a bid for some other city that's buying what we're buying, if they're buying 30 of them and we want 2, many times we can get our 2 at the 30 price, which is a really good thing. So just looking to give us a little bit more flexibility and maybe save a couple dollars.
So we'll have to take out the, under 8A, the Oakland County Cooperative Purchasing Program.
Well, it still exists, it's just part of it now.
Okay.
So I think it's okay.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, and thank you, Chief, for researching that and being able to put us into this program. So,
Thanks to Greg and Anna for allowing it too.
Yeah.
Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm part of the consortium, so I've got a lot of experience with purchasing power in the private sector and stuff like that, and it works. It works a lot, saves a lot of money. Some of the prices that we end up paying compared to what we have to pay in the consortium is huge, so I'm hoping that this works in that same balance. Thank you.
You need a motion.
We need a motion
Yeah.
too,
I
and
move-
it's a council policy, so they need to.
I move we revise council policy 18.
Second.
Nielsen?
Yes.
Nowak?
Yes.
Walagora?
Aye.
Hess?
Yes.
And Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Chief.
Go ahead.
Adjourn to closed session to discuss
Labor.
negotiations and tax appeal.
Second.
Nowak?
Yes.
Walagora?
Aye.
Hess? Johnson?
Yes.
And Nielsen?
Yes.
Motion carried.